Hello and welcome to a FastHouse presentation. FastHouse specialise in rapid build high performance housing and prefabricated panel systems. So the quicker you build, the quicker you make money. So FastHouse is all about speed of construction with offsite construction. So today's presentation we're going to talk about coronavirus COVID-19 and compliance with restrictions made easier via FastHouse and via offsite construction methods. So, with the largest global health crisis the world has ever known, we're having to learn quite quickly how to manage this virus outbreak. The construction industry has just started to have a gradual return to work. We're presented with many new challenges. We're having to rethink the way we do construction, safer ways of working. So, a lot of challenges are starting to arise because of COVID-19 restrictions. The government has responded based on various global self-isolation advice and guidance, and they've released various strategies, and they're looking at the World Health Organization and organizations like the European Centre of Diseases Prevention Control and taken on board their advice, and the government has presented first of all, the Irish government presented a roadmap where part of phase one, the construction industry returned to work on the 18th of May. And the UK government's strategy, their outlined plan for a COVID-19 recovery, shows construction workers returning to work as of the 13th of May. The Northern Ireland Executive's 5-step plan is proposing a gradual lifting of regulations without specified dates. So I suppose we're all in this together. It is an era of change. We're all going to have to hold firm and try and find ways of protecting our workers, our workplace, our clients. So, although we have returned back to work, COVID-19 restrictions are going to impact construction for a long time into the future, until some time a vaccine is readily available, at least. So now construction needs to work as an industry to restore confidence in construction. We need to restore confidence that we can coexist with this pandemic, and the industry must find a safer way to operate. Our activity will be suspended again. That's in reality. If there's health concerns, things could be suspended again. So it's up to us all. We're all in this together. And we've no excuse. There's good advice and guidance already out there in the industry of safer ways to operate. If the CLC in the UK released Protecting Your Workforce During Coronavirus. In Ireland, the CIF have released standard operating procedures and back to work resource back. So if we want the industry to stay open and jobs to stay safe, we need to make sure that we all take responsibility for compliance and should apply to safe working procedures, advice and guidance that's available. And this will make it easy well, not easy, but it'll be achievable then for the industry to comply with the latest government advice if we follow these guidance documents. So let's look at the challenges that this pandemic has the construction industry is presented with. First of all, protecting the well-being of staff, clients, public. So protection of life really is going to be prioritized over programs and costs, etc. So we're definitely looking at a new era. We're looking at the safer operating procedures both on and off site and monitoring these procedures to make sure they're implemented consistently. We're definitely going to be looking at an extension to program time as a result of these restrictions, and perhaps constantly evolving timelines as well. It's inevitable that this will lead to increased costs, productivity issues, less productivity due to restrictions, managing supply chain issues, material supply, etc. will be impacted. So training your workforce on safe operating procedures, testing your workforce so they can return to work safely, especially if the foreign staff may be returning from abroad. There's 2-week quarantine, stuff like that. So skill requirements may need to be scaled up and down. So it may, if restrictions may need to be reimposed because of health concerns, you may have to scale back down again. So it's all about recalling staff from temp layoff or foreign countries at very short notice and getting them trained up and available. So lots of challenges ahead. Construction, so offsite construction, I suppose for a long time has been selling as a safer method of construction. But if we moved a lot of the processes from a building site into a factory controlled environment, it can be argued that it's easier to implement consistent control measures in a factory controlled environment because it's a controlled environment. So industry guidelines and social distancing can be easier achieved. The factory is far more predictable, safer, controlled. It's highly automated, so less work people, less workforce. It's regimented, more orderly, process driven. So you've set stations, consistently safe. So consistent in that there's no variables like weather and visibility. So apart from quality, there's less errors and accidents. So you're carrying out the same process every time at the different stations. Less trades, working from tight, restricted location. So I was saying they're set out at different stations. They're not working from the same tight room in a house, etc. So less need to work it from heights, handling of bulk materials, less moving vehicles. So less chance of accidents. So labour is drawn from local communities, so which not only leads to a better work-life balance for your staff, but it's also less commuting of staff in white vans, etc., to and from sites. So here's the factory up in Limavady in Derry, FastHouse factory, showing a few of the production lines. This picture was taken pre-COVID-19, so you can actually see how achievable it is in this factory to transition to operate it with social distance in mind and safer operating procedures. The red arrows show, first of all, a few staff is on the factory floor, but it also shows they're working from a safe, workable distance. They're a good 5 meters apart in most instances. So it's a highly automated factory, so there's less labor intensive involved than you'd have on a site. Then looking at site itself, typically to put up a panelized system, you're looking at a 4-man installation crew, 2 to 3 men max usually align and fix a panel into place. I suppose because FastHouse have the unique capability of producing very long span panels, we're only restricted really to the length of a trailer. It also assists with keeping workers at a very safe working distance. Again, those pictures were taken pre-COVID-19, so you can see how achievable it is on site to transition then to social distance and safe way of working. So let's just look at the typical sequence of work when you're using offsite construction. The whole idea we're aiming for, I suppose, is to have no 2 trades on site at the same time would be ideal. So less workers on site at one time is the key, and that's going to lead to protect lives. But to do that, you also want to protect the program. So offsite construction has always sort of done this anyhow. If we take a look at a typical sequence of works, you have your substructure contractor will be preparing your bases, your foundations. When they move on to the next base, your scaffolder will erect the scaffold and have it ready then for your offsite manufacturer to come to site. The more we can do in the factory, the better. We'll have less trades on site. So if we install the windows in the factory, if we do the exterior cladding, the plasterboards, your electrical conduit, etc., you're removing trades from site into the factory controlled environment. So typically what happens though with say your hybrid timber frame systems, the exterior cladding and the roof finishes are still applied on site. These are usually done outside the house. You can have them staggered so they're not working on at the same time. Whilst inside the house, you could have your first fix plumbing, move in, and then move out to make way for first fix electrics. When they move out, you can have your dry lining contractor. So you could have no overlapping trades in a house at any one time. And your exterior and interior trades can overlap because they're working on the exterior envelope while working internally. This is usually where the issues may arise will be second fix trades. Typically you'd have a lot of trades in a house trying to finish out houses, maybe to tight programs, etc. So plasterers, plumbers, electricians, kitchen, bathroom installers, tilers, carpenters, joineries, and painters. So ideally what you want to do is stagger them out now. So what we're saying really, if you engage in an off-site billing system, you'll gain a lot more time up front early on in the program that will enable you then to spread out your second fixed trades when you're finishing out the house at the tighter end, the latter stages of program. So we spoke about less men on site, but obviously we're going to minimize exposure to risk of COVID infection if we've less time on site. So let's look at just a typical program of a pair of semi-D houses. Typically traditional build, masonry, you'd be probably looking for turnkey, start to finish, 18 weeks, maybe 22 weeks for a pair of semi-Ds. Or if you use a closed panel system, so we're doing more off-site, you could be looking at 7 weeks. So it all depends on how much we do off-site in the factory. So typically the hybrid systems would be 60 to 70% faster than traditional build. And what we mean by hybrid is where it's pre-insulated, airtight membranes, etc. on the timber frame panel. That could be 30 to 40% faster than an open panel timber frame where you're doing still a lot of work on site. So what we're trying to say is less time on site means you're going to have a lot less interaction between people, a lot less contact, and a lot less time of manpower on site. So faster, leaner, smarter methods of construction are also safer methods of construction. So let's look at what FastHouse, um, the actions it's taken within their factory then. Um, Obviously, we're trying to have staff work from home when possible. A lot of staff working remotely from home offices, taking temperatures upon entry and exit of the factory, stringent infection control precautions in place, appropriate processes, systems, engineering controls, all based on NHS HSE advice, provision and use of suitable work equipment to help prevention. So correct PPE and stuff in place, and it's all to do with limiting the transmission of infection. Easy surveillance, as we said, in a factory with set stations, a lot easier to achieve, social distance, etc. Regular hand washing, appropriate PPE, and staff have to be all trained appropriately in C19 infection prevention and control. So as we were saying, our factory is highly automated anyway. We've already always worked with split shifts to reduce staff numbers on the factory floor at any one time. A high level of automation obviously reduced the workforce. Then on site, I suppose you're looking at stricter travel to and from work. So you're putting restrictions in place about vehicle seating arrangements. So you have less pooling of workforce within white vans going to sites, etc. You're looking at strict infection control on company vehicles and equipment. And then compliance with access to and from the factory, access to and from sites. So a lot of restrictions in place there. And obviously then we're working very closely with our clients and our project C19 compliance officers. So as we mentioned, staggered travel times to and from work, but also staggered lunch hours. And lunch may be taken in vehicles rather than multiple use canteens, etc. So staggered lunch hours is important. So FastHouse are also looking at the compliance of social distancing, as we mentioned, regular hand washing, drivers staying in vehicles when appropriate, not being on site. The RAMs also, all your risk assessment and method statements, we've rewritten them all with C19 restrictions incorporated into them. We have a safe to return to work questionnaire in place, and we make sure we're always in compliance with HSE and NHS guidance documents, the relevant guidance that's out there. So let's look. What's also a system with minimal on-site interaction is our FastHouse FieldWire software. It's a risk management software tool where our supervisors on site would have a tablet that can communicate directly on a real-time basis from any device, from a phone as well, and it can link the site to a remote office where our design teams, our client can achieve various reports, can track performance, create different schedules for work, progress reporting. You can, so it's paperless reporting really, but quality inspections and sign-offs and stuff can be done now and sent direct to an office. So it would involve less team meetings on site, less interaction between staff on site, and between clients and the offsite manufacturer on the site. So it's a good tool to have, not only for quality control, but now for risk management. So let's look at, I suppose, off-site construction has always sold that it's a safer method of construction. You have safer sites, you have less waste, less men, less materials, less hazards, less vehicles moving, less deliveries. So it's just a safer site. Lots of research to back up. It leads to less errors, less accidents, and it's higher quality, I suppose, as well. But I suppose what this means is we're putting less of an onus on the emergency service, because the emergency service is already under pressure. So may not be able to respond as quickly as usual, but you also want to reduce the pressure on them. They need to respond for COVID-19 cases. So things like fall from heights, slips, trips, moving vehicles, etc. It's all leads to safer method of construction. So FastHouse have their own effective health and safety management systems in place to demonstrate our commitment to health and safety. So let's look at collaboration and partnership. So I suppose the key going forward, it's inevitable there's going to be additional costs. There's going to be delays arising from having to try and adapt these C19 restrictions. So really, if the client, design team, and the offsite manufacturer engage early, we can resolve before disputes cause further delays happen. If you make contact with each other and collaborate, you can try and share the burden. So you can engage early on, assess the impact C19 restrictions are going to have on processes, on contracts. May have to review contracts relating to notices, delays, costs, instructions, etc. May look at the remobilization costs. So you're trying to share the burden, work as a partnership. Let's hold strong and get through this together. And we're looking at people and safety first now. So may have to revisit insurance covers, etc. But it's all about partnership, collaboration, working together. So just in conclusion, this slide will summarize everything this presentation is trying to get across. We're trying to build confidence that the construction industry can operate in the future and protect people and lives. So offsite construction helps mitigate risk. Quicker in, quicker out. So quicker you get inside, quicker you get out of site. That is the key for numerous reasons. For protecting lives, so less people, easier social distance, less demand for skilled labour, protecting supply, so supply chain issues and concerns, labour availability concerns. Offsite manufacturing can alleviate a lot of these concerns. As we mentioned, we'd be protecting the HSE and the NHS by having less demand on the emergency department, by having safer sites and less accidents. Protecting program, so less time on site, so you're less exposure to risk. Your financial returns are quicker. Risk maybe of mortgages being revoked, stuff like that. So it's all to do with quicker turn on your financial investment. So quicker you build, the quicker, more money you save. So that's really in conclusion. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you found this beneficial. And as we're saying now, people and safety is first. Protecting our workers, workplace, and clients. We're all in this together. Hold strong, and we can save lives. Thank you.